Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 2021 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day, and today we have a new challenge that we are starting for the rest of this career mode. Here you see it. Seeing the racing line on the surface really ruins it for me. How do you not know where to brake by now? It really ruins the immersiveness. Well, we're going to try and change that today. Automatic flow, I'm so sorry that it ruins everything for you to have that braking line on, but hopefully you'll be happy now because we are turning it off starting today. Now, unfortunately, coming into this career mode episode fresh off of our second win of the season in Singapore, we have tied the championship with Daniel Ricciardo, but I wasn't, I guess I would say, very intelligent coming into this episode. I didn't really do any practice without the braking line whatsoever coming into this, so it was really, I was kind of coming in blind, but just kind of remember where I brake, what that braking line and whatnot. I've always used that braking line as my braking point, you know, instead of the brake markers on the side of the track. So now I'm having to adapt to using the brake markers on the side of the track instead. You can see me adjusting the tire pressures. I was really loose in practice. You can see it there. The tires were really lit up. They were heated. And unfortunately, we're also taking a 40 grid place penalty coming into this GP weekend because I basically swapped out the whole engine. We were going to have to do it anyways, so I decided to do it this episode here while we have some straightaways to make some passes. Now, a bit of a curveball that's being thrown into the mix, so the race is likely going to be a full wet racer going on to the intermediates as well, but nonetheless it's going to be wet the whole way through likely, so that's going to add a little bit of chaos potentially, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, coming into qualifying, I only had like 1 or 2 legitimate laps I think under my belt. I really should have done more practice without the braking line, but I certainly paid the price here early on in this episode for not doing a little bit more practice, because we would make it into Q2, which was okay, but look how far off I was. I was way off, 1.5 seconds or more off of my teammate of Daniel Ricciardo. So we had a lot of work to do, and we came through into Q2, and unfortunately I just didn't quite have enough pace. Now, I think it was a combination of more than just having the braking line off. It was usually, I'm not great when it comes to Circuit of the Americas in general, and I personally just do not enjoy this racetrack. One of my least favorites. We go from my favorite track in the world at Singapore to one of my least favorite tracks in the whole world, and certainly in Formula 1 as well here, Circuit of the Americas. Even when I'm playing like with NASCAR on this track, I still don't enjoy it, even though I love my road course racing. So unfortunately though, we come through in P14 at this point in time, just like where we were in Q1, and we come through this final turn on a second attempt, and it's 2.5, nearly 3 tenths better, but it still wasn't enough. We missed Q3, and we'll start P13 here in Circuit of the Americas, as well as our teammate of Daniel Ricciardo there, up there P3 on the grid currently. We'll see where he lines up here as we're going to head to the grid here from Circuit of the Americas.
Welcome once again then to the United States Grand Prix here in the magnificent city of Austin. It was here in 2018 that Kimi Räikkönen delighted the world by winning for the first time in 114 races. There's always a record to be broken, so what, I wonder, is in store for us today? We have 10 turns to the left and 10 to the right here at the fantastic Circuit of the Americas. Overtaking opportunities into turns 1 and 12 at this anti-clockwise 3.6 mile track. But we may well see cars struggle to slow down there today as the wet weather does interfere with the low-speed grip. With the Grand Prix nearly upon us, Anthony Davidson is by my side once again to offer his perspective. Let's talk about the Golden Boy. That was a great win in the last race. Can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs. So it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Gasly, Bottas, Carlos Sainz and Leclerc, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Ricciardo and George Russell, Vettel, Giovinazzi, Esteban Ocon and Latifi, Eilert, Joe, Mick Schumacher and Lance Stroll, Lundgaard and the Golden Boy. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
You saw the starting grid, you see the strategy. It's raining the whole way through except for at the very end, probably in the last couple of laps, and at that point there wouldn't be enough time for the track to dry up. So nonetheless, we're going to line up here on the grid from dead last here and hope for the best. You saw Ricciardo actually had a really rough qualifying effort compared to Q2, so that can kind of help us as Norris and Verstappen both trying to get back into the championship mix as this lights out. We are underway from the United States Grand Prix here from Circuit of the Americas. At this point in time, obviously, only one United States GP on the schedule, but we look at this year, we're going to have 2 with Miami. Next year, we're going to have 3 with Las Vegas. It's crazy how much the United States presence is growing here in Formula 1 now as we get through turn 1 without any issues. They're passing the American team of Haas. We actually gained about 3 spots on the opening corner there as you see everybody else getting through there pretty calm. There was some 3 wide action there right in the midfield, and that was really causing a bit of a log jam there, really allowing myself to get onto the gearbox on some of these guys and try to make some attacks here and gain some positions on this opening lap, because it's crucial for us to gain as many spots as we can on this opening lap, especially you know, I didn't have much practice in the dry weather with the no brake line. Now I have no practice whatsoever in the wet, so you can see actually a replay here from the onboard of Esteban Ocon. Look at the 3 wide here with Russell and the 2 Aston Martins of Giovinazzi and Sebastian Vettel there right in front, and I was surprised. I was looking for some contact. I thought some contact was made. Nobody made any contact there. Max Verstappen comes through to lead this first and opening lap over Lando Norris, and like I said, both of those drivers looking to get themselves back in the championship battle. Norris is very close. It's only, I think, 3 points below coming into this race, and myself and Ricciardo obviously tied. It's crazy looking at Daniel Ricciardo's dominant season that he is only tied for the championship lead with myself, who hasn't had near the pace as Ricciardo all season long, but we've been a little bit more consistent with the more or less the reliability of the car, which has kept us in this championship battle. And Norris, of course, is making a late season charge, but what's crazy is Lando Norris has yet to win a race this season. Could he change that today in the United States? You see a bit of a moment for myself, and you can see I'm certainly having my struggles here on this wet compound tire, and I was noticing, so I was gaining a lot of time on the back half of the track, but on the front half of the track, I was really struggling here. I just couldn't hit my braking zones. I was missing every other apex. Look at that. I couldn't hit the apex to save my life, and that's simply because I'm just pushing too deep into the braking zone. I'm braking too late compared to what I'm used to, and of course, that's just simply because I'm not used to having no braking line after playing 7 years of Formula 1 with the braking line. So it was a big learning process here in this episode, but I slowly started to kind of catch on. Like I said, the back half of the track I had down pretty early in the GP, and I could gain a lot of time, but I would lose all of that time I was gaining on the back half in the front half of the track. So it was really just this repetitive process of gain on the back half, lose on the front half, and then just keep going back and forth. But as we came through to lap 6, 7, 8, I started to finally get into a bit of a flow here and started to find myself on that front half and then continue what I was doing on the back half of the track, and I finally was kind of getting this track down here on the wet compound tire, and now I was getting closer and closer to Esteban Ocon. But by the time I finally am able to get close to him here within 7/10 of a second, well, he's going to come into the pit lane and bring, I believe, Sebastian Vettel as well as Lewis Hamilton here. So unfortunately, by the time I finally start to hit my marks, everybody's coming into the pit lane for the intermediate compound tire. So we're going to come in a lap later with everybody else and switch on to the intermediate compound. Ricciardo comes in here on the same lap as myself, so we're going to do a bit of a double stack here, but there's a nice gap between Ricciardo and myself here because I spent so much of that first portion of the race learning the braking zones that we should be okay to pull off this double stack. And sure enough, Ricciardo, he's already long gone down the pit lane, and we're going to pull into our pit box here, throw on an intermediate set of tires. It might have been an extra second in there right there because of that double stack that we kind of lost a little bit of time, but it shouldn't be that bad. So we would exit the pit lane here in P15. So we lost 1 spot originally right there, but we had some work to do, of course, to try and now get into a flow. But my confidence was building, and I was starting to just be able to start clicking off some lap times, and I finally kind of found my comfort zone without the braking line on for the first time through this whole episode. And you can see the difference it made once I kind of started to be able to hit my markers and whatnot, because we were all over the back of Esteban Ocon, Giovinazzi, as well as Sebastian Vettel, and it was just a matter of time until we start making some moves here. And now we're going to line up Esteban down into turn 1 and see if we can make a move for this 13th position. Now we're going to make a big dive up the inside here. I was a little bit cautious into turn 1, didn't quite know how far I could quite push it there, but you know what, we made make the pass really without any issues whatsoever. Now on this long back straightaway, all over the back of the rear diffuser of Antonio Giovinazzi there in the car we drove for the last 2 seasons. Now as we're going to go up the inside of him, there nearly some contact actually made between myself and Antonio there, but we pull off the pass on him in another position. Next up, my favorite all-time Formula 1 driver, of course, and the 4-time world champion and former teammate now in this career mode of Sebastian Vettel was on the list to get next. And you can see, look at the lap times we're setting. We actually go purple sector 2. We have found some pace. I got confident, maybe a little bit too confident. I make a very aggressive lunge and actually go off their track. Surprisingly, they do not order me to give the position back, and we hold off Vettel and take P11, and we're on the back of George Russell there. And now on this long back straightaway, we're going to make a pass on George Russell as well. I mean, look at the difference these laps have made getting under my belt with the no braking line. In the first 6 laps of the race, after getting the first lap or 2 out of the way with everybody together, I couldn't gain anything. And now that we've hit our markers, we've gotten comfortable, we have gained about 5-6 positions here, I think, at this point now, as we're going to go and pass Lewis Hamilton, but I did get a little bit deep into turn 1. We're going to still be side by side with the 7-time Formula 1 world champion in his final season of this career mode before he retires there now, as he was actually going to have the upper edge and I would back out of it, and we would try to fight him back right here down this long back straightaway one more time, and we're going to be alongside wheel to wheel with Lewis Hamilton into the heavy braking zone, and we're going to be able to pull off the pass right here. Yes, we will clear of Hamilton up into 9th place. Real quick, I should note that we will be doing one more season of this F1 career mode, and it will be a 16 race season, I believe, one more time before the release of F1 22, and I have a whole plan already for the F1 22 storyline, so stay tuned on that now as we come through for a quick mid-race update. I mean, really not much has happened in this GP other than myself finally getting comfortable and being able to move up some track position here. But look at Daniel Ricciardo. He's only gotten up to P6. It's not been a great day for Ricciardo. I think Lando Norris might come into this day as the championship leader with still, like I said, no race victories, which is pretty crazy here, but no DNFs. Nobody's out of this race. Everyone's just kind of taking it easy. It's really not been a crazy race by any means. Sometimes when you get these soaked races where you're on the wet compound tire, the intermediate compound tire the whole way through, there's some level of chaos, but we really haven't seen any of that here now. But now, I was on an island of my own. I pulled 9 seconds on Hamilton, but we had 8 seconds to Charles Leclerc, so it was going to be very, very tough to make anything happen here now at this point. Now as we actually came through, this is when I surprised myself. I set the fastest lap of the GP. It didn't last long, as you can see there, as we were though closing in quickly on Leclerc, Tsunoda, everybody. We were running faster lap times than our teammate of Daniel Ricciardo at this point. So what could have been if we could have found this pace and got comfortable with the no brake line when we were on the wet compound tire? Obviously we didn't find that comfortability till about the last lap or 2 when we were on that wet compound tire, but we were hauling, to say the least. It got below 3 seconds between myself and Leclerc. Just unfortunately, there was just nothing that happened in this race to give us any fortunate safety car or anything. Literally nothing happened. We were cruising to the finish. I was actually obviously pushing hard because I know we need to get every point we can at this point in the championship. We set the fastest lap. Will that last out to the final moments of this GP? Final lap, 2 seconds to Charles Leclerc. Just not enough time to get to him, unfortunately, in that Ferrari. It was Max Verstappen, though, who was rounding the final corner to win here in the United States GP. He's a little bit further back in the championship than Lando Norris, but it's still not necessarily game over for Max Verstappen to get his 2nd world title. We would come through in this final corner. Rain has completely stopped. Track was drying up at this point, but we do get the fastest lap point. That could go a long way here in a few episodes' time at the end of this season. We cross the line for P9. I mean, honestly, what a comeback drive, and finding our comfortability with the no braking line. I deem this a pretty successful performance here with the cards we were dealt with the grid penalty as well. We also get driver of the day.
Victory for the team from Milton Keynes then, after a quality performance. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team.
There you saw the podium celebration. Bottas there in P3. I mean, Bottas, I wouldn't write him out of the championship as well. We're only going to have, I think, 4 GPs left. It's Mexico, we got Brazil, we got Saudi Arabia, as well as Abu Dhabi coming up. So 4 GPs remain on the season, and with the no braking line, hopefully I can adapt quickly. I'm definitely going to put more practice in. But Ricciardo is down 5 points to Lando Norris. We're 12 points below now from Lando. Verstappen is 36 out, Bottas 38. So they're not necessarily out of the mix either, and unfortunately Red Bull gained quite a bit on us today in the Constructors' Championship, so less than 20 points separate us, as we've always had some teams battling right down to the end in the Constructors' Championship, but we have a chance still to go for this championship against Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo as well, but it's definitely not going to be an easy task. Ricciardo and myself had blistering pace at the end of the season, or at the beginning of the season, sorry, but at the end of the season, Red Bull has made a lunge towards us in 3 GPs in a row that Ricciardo has not finished on the podium, which is the most consecutive. 2 of those were DNFs, and look at, every time he's been on the podium, he's won. There hasn't been anything else, but I'll see you guys in the next one for the Mexican GP. Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a great day.